have you ever struggled to point out Estonia on a world map? Well, now prisoners could soon be spending their sentences there because government sources have revealed plans are in the pipeline to transfer criminals from British jails into Estonian jails, which have been labelled as a solution to tackle Britain's overcrowded prison crisis. Now, the Estonian Justice Minister revealed that a number of countries are interested in using Estonia's unused prison space. Is this Labour's plan to tackle crime, and will it work? Well, joining me now to discuss this, the potential proposal, is the social campaigner Winton Davis. Winton, always a huge pleasure to see you on the show. Now, regular viewers will know you've served time yourself, and you've served time in prisons that are, let's face it, chocker, absolutely packed to the rafters. As an inmate, how would the notion go down of, OK, the jails are full, you're off to Estonia? How would that go down?
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to want to be going anywhere other than this country. But to go to a country which has got the third highest murder rate in Europe, behind Lithuania and Latvia, again, it'd even be even worse. So would it deter people from committing crime? Maybe, maybe not. But certainly when they come back, if they come back, they're going to be more, potentially more, willing and wanting to do more ruthless crime. They say that the chances to stop people committing crime are family ties, housing, and employment. Well, if you cut off their links to the country and their family, then what could happen? I don't know.
And Winston, on that basis, I mean, you're absolutely right. Having family to come and see you, to keep your spirits up, to keep that connection to the outside world is an imperative. In fact, it's enshrined in British legal rights. It is a human right of people in jails. Now, people can complain about that all they like, but that's the way it is. But should you think there be a pecking order? For example, we have over 10,000 foreign prisoners in British jails, and we have returns agreements with a lot of countries. Like we've got 1,500 Albanians in British jails. We have a returns deal with Albania. Surely the answer isn't to send English lads, British lads, whatever, to Estonia, but to actually deal with the capacity we have, 10,000 foreign criminals. Maybe it's a more sensible idea, Winston, to send them back to their countries.
I actually agree with you, Martin. The number one foreign criminals in proportion on our jails are from Albania, I think it's Lithuania, and Ireland, one of them, Irish. And it's like, look, if they're committing crime and they get locked up in this country, it's like, what are we paying for them to be here? Like, send them straight back, never to return, and work out that way. We definitely shouldn't be sending people out when we can. I said this a few weeks ago when I was on. I said the foreign criminals in here that we can get out, especially lower level ones that, are on short sentences or maybe not for violent crime, just send them back.
I totally agree. And when you look at the numbers, you're right. So it's almost 1,500 Albanians, 856 Polish inmates, 758 Romanians, as you say, 624 Irish, over 400 Lithuanians, 400 Jamaicans, 300 Pakistanis, 280 Somalians, 199 Nigerians. I could go on. You get the point. We have 100%. A system, we're being told now, Winston, today, we have 83 spaces in British jails, and yet we have 10,321 foreign prisoners. To me, this is a no-brainer.
It is. I think it's like he's talking about, we're doing the this early dawn initiative next month, reducing the sentences to 40%. But actually, if we did a knee-jerk of taking out the foreign prisoners, taking them out and sending them back to wherever they've come from, regardless of the sort of the financial implication of it, however you work that out between the countries, just get them out because we can't keep them here. That 1,000,000% makes sense. And then if you look at the overhaul of what's led us to this, in the article we're talking about, former Lord Chief Justice Thomas, he says, he's a lawyer, he went to Cambridge, and he says that, we've been increasing the sentences for longer and longer time, but we're looking at what kind of effect on it. And realistically, I've said it before, we've had an explosion of private prisons, and the only ones that are really benefiting from this explosion of prisons and explosion of prison sentences are the people, the shareholders of these privately owned prisons. We looked at yesterday come out this report from Grenfell. It's the first time in my memory that we've actually got evidence that because of cuts from government, which is fed down to the private industry, that then people's lives and us as citizens are being put at risk. Well, actually, is it too far of a stretch of imagination to think that the government, private prisons, private shareholders are all benefiting, and again, us taxpayers are the ones that are suffering?
And Winston, I just love talking to you because you've got such common sense, and I want to get you to tell the viewers again today about the positive benefits of prison. And I'm assuming that the quality of environment, the chance of rehabilitation, the chance of getting an education, an active job inside is directly impacted by how packed the prison is. Overcrowded prisons, you have more containment alone because there's more chance of violence when you're in there. So if the capacity is eased in jails, there is more chance for rehabilitation. And Winston, I want you to just to tell us again how prison works for you.
100%. Yeah, no. So I was convicted 16 years ago after getting caught with marijuana. I took a trade up in there, heating, gas. I come out, realised that, that wasn't for me. I met my missus, got married. I built businesses from it. I've employed both people in the community, serving prisoners, and I'm a chair of a charity now. I do my best to give back because I understand that who I am is not a reflection of my past and my childhood, where I grew up. And I do everything I can to be a good father, a good man in the community, and try my best just to lead a decent life.
And Winston, when you sort of see the state of the British prison system at the moment, it seems to be lurching from disaster to disaster. On the one hand, we have 83 places left. We have 10,000 foreign criminals, more than you made a good case for why that shouldn't be the way it is. And yet we're putting people in jail for Facebook posts. And do you think sometimes that the entire law and order system just doesn't seem to fulfill its purpose?
I think the problem is, Martin, we've got too many people in too high positions that have not got a clue what it's like leading a normal life in this country and dealing with the strains and pressures in this country. And for too long, we've just been ignored. And now we're being made to feel the blame for the problems that have been created by people that have got the control. And that's the issue. And that's always been the issue, and especially the last 30, 40, 50 years. OK, we'll have to leave it there. It's always an absolute delight speaking to you. Winston Davies, I think you're a wonderful man. Thank you very much for joining me on the show and sharing your story once again. Superb stuff. Peter, welcome to the studio. So on paper, it makes sense. We're full, they've got capacity, but the point is, who should be going over there? I put it to you, we've got over 10,500 foreign prisoners. Surely they should be first in the queue to get sent to Estonia.
Well, I'd like those foreign prisoners repatriated to whence they came from, with a bar on ever returning to the UK. I think that would be a very good way to free up a considerable amount of capacity in our full prisons. But this idea is utterly ridiculous on a number of levels. First of all, of course, the Estonians have capacity. They have lower crime rates than we do. So they're going to say, right, the British are desperate. Charge them whatever we fancy. The bill would be astronomical. And that's just what the Estonians would charge us. Actually, transporting prisoners and deporting people is expensive. You need at least 2 prison guards to every prisoner. You've then got to get a flight, and you can only have a specific number of prisoners on any given flight. And when you count in things like those costs, the bill just goes up and up and up. And importantly, if they were British prisoners who were then going to come back to the UK at their end of term, what would seriously concern me is that this would be a great opportunity for them to carve new links with different criminals from different parts of the world, thereby making them even more efficient criminals when they got back to the UK.
Because they were picking up all sorts of saucy habits in Estonian nicks. They'd be coming back with connections from the continent. They could be importing even more insidious methods of crime. When you talk about the cost, it's a great point. This could be like the Rwanda bill, but with bars on.
It is. It's going, and should it come into being? I mean, and we know that ministers have been having conversations, but none have spoken publicly about it. It will be as damaging to this government as the Rwanda plan was to the previous government, without a doubt.
And you mentioned about the problems of getting people on flights. What about the problems of getting the flights away? We've seen before when we've attempted to deport Jamaican criminals. In fact, on these foreign prisoner list here, Peter Bleksley, Jamaicans, there are 403 Jamaican nationals in British NICs. Top of the list, Albanians, come as no surprise to you, almost 1,500, 850 Polish, 758 Romanians. But to try and get these flights away, you'd have tree huggers and whatnot stopping the flights getting off. You'd have the human rights lawyers, precisely the same sort of problems that have blighted the removal of criminals already would surely strike again.
The human rights lawyers who, through their continual attempts to block deportations, have actually led to prisoners who have been handcuffed on an aeroplane with the wheels almost turning. They've led to those people, those criminals, being taken off those flights and remaining in British jails. That's what certain human rights lawyers do in the name of trying to defeat British justice. All of the aforementioned numbers, get those on planes, deport them back to their home countries with that proviso: you never return to the UK again.
Now, Peter, a lot of people like to get hard on law and order, of course, but there is also the human right, and we must acknowledge it, of visitation rights. When you're within a prison, if you're a British prisoner, certainly, you would have built into your contract, your legal rights, visitation rights from your family. Would that be a problem? Another weak Achilles heel in this plan, which would prevent this ever happening? Because if you take somebody from Britain, whack them in Estonia where they have no family, no connections, no support network, and they suddenly, they start to impact on their mental health, they start to reoffend because they feel out of sorts, you create a whole fresh wave of problems.
That's a very, very important point, because as much as I am in favour of long sentences for people who commit crime, because long sentences are a deterrent and people do learn when they spend a long time in jail. I've met a lot of people who have served 10, 20 years in prison, and they, when they come out, have an absolute intention to never go back inside because they've savoured prison for so long. But in order for people to be rehabilitated, of course, they need a community to come back into upon their release. And preferably they've got training so they get a job, they've got a supportive family that has stuck around, and that includes being visited by loved ones. These things are important. There is no point punishing people if there's no elements of rehabilitation. And a British prisoner, perhaps incarcerated in Estonia with a family that couldn't afford to go out there and visit that prisoner, might be a very unhappy person who would return to the UK with a lot of anger in their soul.
And can I ask you a basic question, and that is why we have 10,000 foreign prisoners in our NICs at the moment. We deport about 3,300 a year, or did last year at any rate. So we're getting rid of about a quarter of the foreign prison stock. But when you look at nations like Albania, Poland, Romania, we have return deals with them. We have political agreements. This isn't Afghanistan. It's not Syria. It's not Iraq. Why are they even in British NICs in the first place, Peter?
Although we do have prisoners from Afghanistan and Syria and Iraq who have committed extremely serious, abhorrent crimes, and I would like to see them long gone from our shores. Quite frankly, if you take the life of an entirely innocent British person, then I think whatever comes to you when you get returned to your homeland, you have by and large brought upon yourself. That said, yes, with those other countries that you mentioned, there are political agreements, there is cooperation with us and these other nations. So why do we not get them out there? I think it's a lack of political will. I think there are failings within the prison service, the Home Office and beyond. And until we get a fully effective, functioning government that can protect its citizens of the UK, which is a government's primary job, then these kind of stories are going to keep surfacing.
Peter Bleksley, always an absolute delight to have you in the studio. Always great to get your opinions. Thank you very much, Peter Bleksley. Legend. Thank you. Now, we've got a quick statement to read you out here, and that's from this. It says the Lord Chancellor has been clear that we have to bring in reforms to tackle the prison capacity crisis, and that's why, alongside our commitment to build more prisons, we will be publishing a 10-year strategy in the autumn to set out how we will ensure that we always have the places we need to keep dangerous offenders behind bars. And on those reports specifically, I would point out this was the policy of the former government, and that this government has made no such plans or announcements with regard to Estonia. So that is a key point. They're not even planning to do it. It was a Tory plan. Now, lots more still to come between now and 5